Everyone. This is Gary Wilson, and thank you for joining us on today's Wealth-Wise Wednesdays. What I'm going to talk about today is you've heard me talk a lot about creative purchasing techniques and how I'm really not a big fan. I mean, I've done them all, and they all work. But the thing is, they play a certain role. They have a certain place in the investing life cycle, real estate investing life cycle. So a lot of people, unfortunately, because of all the late night gurus, they make it seem like it's the only way to invest in real estate, and that's not true. Investing by using, owner financing, buying on terms, no money down, all that kind of stuff, it does work and it does have its place. Just remember, when you do that, the risk is you end up with very little, if any, cash flow. Okay, you also end up with very little, if any, equity. And not only that, how many owners of properties are going to be thrilled to receive those types of offers? Well, not very many. Now, having said all that, I want to make sure I'm not confusing you here. I'm not necessarily against them. I'm just saying that a lot of people will start off doing that because you got to get in the game somehow. Somehow or another, you got to get started. And no money down looks very appealing. The challenge is you keep doing that. It's like habit forming. And when you do no money down techniques, you usually have a lot of debt. I mean, you're leveraged up to your eyeballs, and that's no way to go through life. I mean, I know when you get started, a lot of us do that just to get in the game, getting some traction going, and I understand that. So you can do that kind of stuff in the beginning. But what I want you to see you do is once you've got a few properties under your belt, this is what I recommend, is to start to pay off some of that debt. If you've used credit cards, I've used credit cards to buy entire properties, dozens of them, in fact. Pay off the credit cards. Take your cash flow, pay them off. Free yourself up from that debt. Same thing if you've used a home equity line of credit or you borrowed against your own 401k. I understand you did that to get started, and I used to do the same thing. But as soon as you're able to, when you start generating cash flow, I highly encourage you to start paying that debt off and free yourself up a little bit, okay? It'll help your credit rating. You'll be able to get more traditional financing as a result. So now you'll have income producing assets that are producing more revenue. You've got more cash flow, you've got more equity, and you look a lot more appealing to traditional lenders. So a lot of people will have the limiting belief that, well, I don't want to use a traditional lender. But the fact is, if you're going to borrow money, I'd rather borrow money from a traditional lender like a commercial bank or a conventional loan at a community bank, paying 4 or 5%, than pay a hard money lender 10 or 15%. I mean, let's face it, it's called hard money for a reason. The terms are difficult. You're going to pay a lot more money out every month in interest payments. It's going to cut into your equity. That's no way to live through life, okay? What I'm getting at is you can start to look more appealing to more traditional banks. And at some point, when you borrow, you do want to borrow from them. Again, there's a time and place for everything, okay? I would tell you, once you start building a portfolio, you got some equity, you've got some cash flow, I would not be afraid and opposed to borrowing from traditional lenders like conventional banks, or which are your community banks or your commercial banks, okay? I'm not saying you stop doing the no money down financing and the creative ways to purchasing. What I'm saying is later on you can implement some of those strategies, okay? More creative strategies to leverage what you've already got to acquire more real estate, to acquire more income producing assets. So for example, you can imagine this. Let's say you start off by buying some single family homes and some duplexes and you're leveraged up to your eyeballs, okay? You've used your own 401k, you've borrowed against your own 401k, you borrowed against your own whole life policy, you bought within self-directed IRAs, you did some private partnerships, and unfortunately you may have done a hard money loan here or there. The point is, once you have a portfolio, pay off the most painful debt first. Just roll up your sleeves, right, and get to work. Take some time off for buying more properties. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but just follow me on this. You can take time to pay down your debt, which increases your equity and also increases cash flow. So you got both equity and cash flow increasing. Then what you can do, you can use other creative techniques after you've acquired the assets and paid them down to a degree. For example, you can get what we refer to as a blanket mortgage. And you can get a blanket mortgage across your existing portfolio, freeing up some capital, your equity, i.e. equity, to be able to purchase additional property. So let's just walk through this scenario. When I first did this, I'll be the first to admit, I got all no's. I went from bank to bank saying, I don't want to refinance everything. I just want to get a second mortgage in the form of a line of credit, a blanket mortgage across my existing properties in the form of a line of credit. And every one of them said no. Finally, I found one. I was like, I don't understand. I've got this great portfolio performing. You see me, I've been in the business for years now. I'm not a fly-by-night. I've been through the good times and the bad. And every single storm, the ship got in the shore. What I found out was that type of loan I just gave you was typically a commercial loan, and commercial lenders want to always be in first position. That's why they were saying no. They didn't want to be in a second lien position. See, when you do a line of credit against a portfolio that already has forced mortgages, that new borrower, the new lender, becomes a second fiddle. They're in second position as far as lien order goes, which means if there's a foreclosure, the person in the first lien position gets all the goodies, and all the leftovers go for the people in second lien position and then third lien position, so forth and so on. So I guess what happened for me is I finally found a lender who agreed to give me a personal line of credit across my portfolio, but only 50% loan to value. And I thought, well, that doesn't do much, but I told him I would take it because it was a step forward in the right direction. So I took those proceeds, went out and bought another big property. And then what I did is I fixed up, I took care of any deferred maintenance, took about a year, and then raised all the rents across the board. So now at the end of a year, I've got a more valuable property in physical terms because I've taken care of the deferred maintenance, but also in terms of income production terms, I've also got a more expensive property there because I raised the rent. So I've increased the physical value and I increased the financial value of the property, okay? Then I went out and got a brand new first mortgage on that property. Remember, I bought it with a line of credit against other properties. So that property, while I was remodeling it and raising the rents, did not have a lien on it. It was no debt, okay? So I went out, once I raised the value, I went out and got a brand new first mortgage on that property, only 50% loan to value, by the way. I really liked the going from 90% leverage to 80% to 70, whatever, 50. When I got the 50% leverage, all of a sudden, my business, the equity and income started growing like that because I was going to pay off more properties faster. But back to this. So I fixed up the property, raised all the rents, made it twice as valuable as it was when I first bought it, got a brand new first mortgage on it, 50% loan to value, which was enough to pay back the original line of credit that I used to buy this new property to begin with. So I paid back that line of credit. Now let me ask you this. When I paid back that line of credit, okay, and I added another income producing asset to my portfolio, what did that lender do for me on that line of credit? So go ahead and type that in if you want. Well, that's exactly right. He increased the line of credit. Okay, so I was able to go out and do another bigger property. So again, it was like a curve, and when it went past the midway point, it started feeding itself. I no longer was putting any money into the business of buying and holding rental properties. It was feeding itself, self-perpetuating, and my growth just took off. And it's just same with everybody I've ever met who's done this. So in any case, what I'm getting is I borrowed creatively in the beginning to get started. Then I did more commercial, conventional borrowing for a while to keep growing the portfolio. Then at the end, I did another creative technique, a blanket mortgage, which allowed me to leverage the equity in my existing properties. You guys like how I just did that? Now this is all over a period of years. Now I'm on a completely cash basis. I don't have any personal debt. I don't have any business debt. I'm completely debt free. And I will tell you, I'll never go back. I love this feeling. I'll still invest, but I'm going to either put cash in or I'll take it a property I've already owned that depreciated and maybe we'll turn it into a REIT, real estate investment trust. I've done that before too. Or sell shares of it in the form of like a private offering, okay, or like a closed-end mutual fund, okay? Just unique strategies. I'll go over more of those strategies at a future date. But for right now, I just want to have you guys absorb what I just described here, because fundamentally that really describes everything that we're about. It's about getting on a cash basis as fast as you can, or at least, 2/3 debt, 1/3 cash. Then you can work the 50/50 debt versus cash, and then work your way down from there. And for me personally, 2015, December 15th, paid off my last mortgage. I have no personal debt, I have no business debt. I can't even begin to tell you what that feels like, okay? And you can do the same thing. So I'm here to help. If you want to have me help you do that, just give me a message, let me know, and I'll send you whatever information I have on it, okay? In the meantime, guys, God bless you. Take care of yourselves. We will see you next week on Wealthwise Wednesdays. Same bad time, same bad channel, basically 5 p.m. Pacific or 8 p.m. East Coast time. Okay? All right, guys, take care of yourselves. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.